how will Barnes & Noble and Best Buy and other retailers navigate real estate challenges in an age where e-commerce has taken over? Joining me is Andy Grazer, co-founder of A&G Realty Partners. Thanks for joining me, Andy.
Thank you.
So the first question, there's quite a conundrum for retailers as they look to optimize their real estate as e-commerce has really taken off these last few years. What are you seeing right now?
Well, right now, I'd have to say that if you're sitting in any boardroom right now, they're probably as confused as anybody. They're seeing an enormous amount of growth with e-commerce sales, enormous amount of growth with mobility, double-digit growth, and the customer is certainly changing, the demographics are changing. So the question always comes is, what's the right footprint? Do I get out of what I have, change to a smaller one, do things like restoration hardware, go get rid of a lot of the small ones, go with a bigger footprint? So there's a lot of challenges that are going on right now. So at the same time, they're looking at sort of where they can maximize value in their portfolio. So they're spending a lot more time with the real estate portfolio than probably ever before, not just the retailers, but also the investors, the private equity firms, even the landlords. If you talk to some of the landlords, it sounds like I'm speaking to a Wall Street analyst. So they really understand all the nuances that's going on, and when you're in a market where there's no new construction that's going on, it's even a bigger focus because the landlords are seeing rents going up, there's good demand, there's cheap money out there, so why not redevelop? And it just creates an enormous amount of opportunity for not just the retailers, but also for the landlords and the different investors. So it's a very interesting landscape, something that I haven't seen for at least a dozen years, certainly way before pre-recession.
How is real estate playing a role in M&A activity, particularly in the retail sector?
Well, before it was really interesting because we used to speak to some of the private equity players as they were looking to buy some retailers and actually represented some in the past. Before it was, okay, so if a lease comes up for a lease renewal, if we don't get what we want, close the store and we'll go somewhere else because there's so much real estate out there. It's just not the case anymore. So all of a sudden, the private equity player looking at the portfolio is looking at the portfolio saying, okay, we have all these leases that are coming up in the next 5 or 6 years with no chance of a renewal. If I do renew the lease, how much more rent am I going to pay? What are the chances of me re-upping in that specific center, in that particular location? So they're really concentrating on that because there's a real opportunity for the landlords to replace some of those retailers with better retailers. The landlords right now are focused on quality, quality, quality. So you might start seeing some of these lower end retailers lose some great stores and great performers. So from a private equity standpoint, that could be a real problem in the future if they don't get their arms around it.
An interesting deal that took place this year was the buyout of Saks Fifth Avenue.
Right.
I believe of the $2.9 billion purchase price, $1.5 billion was constituted in real estate, which means they essentially paid $1.4 billion for the retail business itself. That seems like quite a deal for Richard Baker, the head of Hudson's Bay.
Right. I would say, from just looking from the outside in and everything that I've read, this looks like a really good opportunity. I mean, there's a lot of synergies in the acquisition, both from an operational standpoint, real estate, there's going to be some overlap, there's going to be some additional opportunities for growth, but if you look at the existing portfolio that he has, he's sitting on some really quality real estate right now. And it keeps going back to what I said. It's like you're sitting in a market where there's no new development. Landlords would kill to have some of that real estate back and maybe redevelop it. So from Richard's standpoint, if operations are going great, keep the store, but if not, he's got a really good opportunity in the real estate, not just on owned real estate, but on some of these long-term leases. Some of these long-term leases almost look like a piece of owned real estate. So I think certainly from a hedge perspective, I think he's done very well.
Thanks for joining me, Andy.
Thank you, and it was really nice being here and nice meeting you.
And that was Andy Grazer, co-founder of A&G Realty.